How you doing? My name's Phil Greaves, and this is a documentary of drunken ramblings right now. And one of the first things I want to open up to this is that there's a band that quoted something. I don't know who it was written by, or it was just something that they came up with, but they said, don't mistake lack of talent for genius. And there's a lot of weight in that. There's a lot of weight in that. And one of the things that might make you mistake lack of talent for genius is a lot of the emotion that goes into a person. You know, there's certain things that may happen in someone's life here and there, and they don't really know how to cope with it, or they may seem like they know how to cope with it. They may act like they know how to cope with it, but they don't. And when they don't know how to cope with it, they come up with undermined subconscious coping mechanisms. Okay? And some of these subconscious coping mechanisms may be alcohol, or drugs, or sex, or TVs, or video games, or pornography, or, you know, whatever fits their lifestyle. They will adhere their lifestyle to a coping mechanism that will make things easy for them to deal with their life. Now, the thing about that is, when you're dealing with a certain coping mechanism, you're casting all these other feelings aside. And when you cast these feelings aside, you end up with an alter ego. You end up with something else that you create in your subconscious mind that you might not realize is really there. But when you don't have your coping mechanism, this alter ego will come out. And a lot of times that might come out in, you know, it might come across as a scapegoat. Scapegoat meaning, well, this is how I do. I act like I'm angry. I act like I'm funny. I act like I'm a class clown. I act like I want to solve everybody's problems, and I'm, you know, just always trying to be there for somebody. You know, whatever it may be, we form an alter ego when we don't have our coping mechanisms. And that's how we deal with life. Now, the thing that I found out for myself is something that I always had when I was in high school, was I was constantly the class clown. I mean, you know, in every fucking instance that I could think of. You know, I was always the class clown. And I even see that now with where I work. I'm looked at as the class clown. I'm looked at as, you know, people make jokes and, you know, poke fun at my expense, and that's okay, because I actually encourage it. I actually encourage people to, you know, poke fun at me and you know, make fun of just the way I am. But I guess in my subconscious that's okay, because that's my scapegoat. You know, a great man once said, anyone who smiles in the face of adversity probably has a scapegoat. And after I thought about that, I realized that that is absolutely 210% correct. Because you can't smile in the face of adversity without having something else to, you know, to fall back on. I mean, it's just something to, just something else to grab onto and take out your feelings on something else. You know, there's a scapegoat. There's something else there. And we all have that. The only thing that separates us between people that realize it and people that don't realize it is exactly that. There's some people that realize it and can deal with their coping mechanism, and you know, there's other people that may not realize it, or they realize it but they want to deny it, and they just drive some other, you know, some other force, some other facet of living life, and they just drill that into their soul until they do it so much where they actually become numb, and that's all they know. And it's really hard to try to cast all that aside. Like, if you could cast away your coping mechanism and your scapegoat, if you could just put that all aside and say, well, this is I've gotten rid of everything, and this is what I have. This is what's in front of me now. How do I deal with this? Well, find a way to cast it aside, and maybe it'll make it easier for you to deal with. Or, you know, how do you face your problems without having some kind of scapegoat? Without saying, well, if this doesn't work, well, at least I have alcoholism, or you know, at least I have my addiction to painkillers. You know, if this doesn't work, well, at least I have music, at least I have writing, at least I have the infatuation where I always try to chase that girl that I can never get. We have something, there's something that we chase because of something that we don't have, and we try to replace it with something else. Well, you know, who would we be if we tried to cast that all aside? Could we even handle that? Would we be afraid? Would we have too much fear to handle that? Maybe that fear that we can't handle it is the fear that we have with ourselves. Maybe we can't handle ourselves, and that's why we turn to a scapegoat. That's why we have you know, these subconscious attachments that we have to like cling to. It's because we can't handle who we are. Our psyche is too much of a power for us to handle. Therefore, we have to cast it onto something else. So in a way, it's almost like we can't handle who we are. We have to form this whole other entire alter ego to help us deal, to help us cope with the entire gravity of our psyche, to help us deal with the entire gravity of ourselves. And when the day comes where all our alter egos and our you know, our subconscious psyches and scapegoats and everything gets cast aside, and all that we're left with is ourselves. When it comes to that point, well, you better pray to whatever deity you believe in. Because when it gets to that point, you're not going to be able to handle yourself. You're not going to be able to deal with who you are in the entirety of the gravity of your psyche. You're not going to be able to handle it. That's why we have scapegoats. That's why we have drinking problems and problems with pills and sex addicts and video games. That's because that's just a way to push away from who we are. And like I said, when that day comes, when all that's going to be, you know, thrown right out the fucking window, all we're going to have left is, well, this is it. This is all I have. This is who I am. When you're faced with that, like I said, you better pray to whatever deity you believe in. Because all you have left is all you have left. And there's not going to be anything else to save you except yourself.